so with that, one of the key things about being financially prosperous really is about business, right? So we've talked about Abraham and his business and becoming an investor. You look at the Proverbs 31 woman, she was in business and then she's also investing, because from her profits, from her business profits is what she used to invest. So for you to get to be an investor, you need to be in business, or you need to have a salary. But business is where you get the profits for you to start investing. So it is very key that when you're on this journey of financial prosperity is to say, what do I need to do in my business so that I become successful? And I always say it starts by building a good foundation. You need to have vision. Just like you have personal vision, you have a business vision. You need to pray about it. You need to say, God, is this the right path that I should take? And then you really need to work very hard, right? Because what you're trying to do is create value. People will pay for what is valuable to them. And sometimes you might be creating something of value, but people are not paying because they don't see it. Again, what the wealthy value is very different from what the poor people value. The wealthy value insights, they value knowledge, they value relationships, they value money, because they know money is an enabler. Versus the poor people don't value that. They're probably just valuing showing off. They're probably valuing just day-to-day things. They probably are lazy. They don't want to work. So again, what you value determines where you go in life. But in business, and if you want to have a successful business, you actually have to have a plan. And we talked about what God says about having a plan. You need to manage, right? You need to manage that. And financial management is key, because you have to keep track of what you're doing and to be effective and efficient in managing that business. And then you need to analyze. There's something about reflection. When you reflect, see things in the past, you're able to make better decisions for the future. So for you to actually take things to the next level, you need to plan, manage, and analyze your business, and that will ensure that you become successful. Now, when we are still on the topic about business, I always tell people in business, you need capital, and there are different types of capital, but I'll break it down to just 4. The first one is social capital, right? So in regards to social capital, you really have to find the right people in your networks, right? Your networks is your net worth, right? Who influencing you is very important. A wealthy person or a person who has knowledge will direct you in the right direction. The person, if you're being influenced the wrong direction, guess what? You will go into the wrong direction and you will not be prosperous financially. So you have to be very careful who is in your network. I actually believe you'd rather have no one in your network than the wrong people in your network, right? Because if you cannot find the right people in your network, it's going to affect you. Your environment affects who you are, right? So if you even talk about even in the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah, what was happening? Even if you're a good person, you become bad because you're in that particular situation. But if you go into a situation whereby people are good, then you become good. So what I'm saying here with social capital, you have to find who will influence you to do good. Who is speaking life into you or into your family or into your community? That is who you want to associate yourself with. Are they giving you the right information? But one of the things I have to say with social capital, you have to be very careful, because wealth brings many friends and a poor man has no friends. So you also have to be careful that the people you bring in your cycle are not just taking from you, but they're also giving back to you. So you have to be very careful about that. And I also believe that your social capital, the people who are in your corner or who you work with, you're able to benefit from one another, right? This is not in the Bible, but it's in reality. If you look at what the Jews do, they're always about community and they support one another. And if one person wants something, they just ask in the community and someone will be able to support them. Again, it's about networks. It's about networks. So surround yourself with the right people, because that social capital will be very important when you're growing your business. If you want people to know what it is that you're doing. Your social capital can be able to tell them what it is that you're doing. They probably be able to support you, or they'll be able to tell you, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you need to do. And you need that in order for you to become wealthy. The second thing is about financial capital. This is the money you have in your hand or in your bank. Again, the only way you get money is by working very hard. You have to actually work so that you can actually get an income, be it your salary, be it business profit, or investment income. So that is very important. And having, I always tell people, especially at a time like this in crisis, cash is king. One of the things a lot of people think is financial prosperity, but it's actually not really prosperity, is really what I have seen people misconstruing about, for example, property. A lot of people are asset rich, but cash poor. So what it is they have all these assets, all this land, all this gold, all this silver, but they don't live a happy life, right? They don't have the lifestyle that they want. They cannot pay their medical bills. Why? Because they have assets, but they're cash poor and they're miserable, right? And you ask them, why did you accumulate all of this if you are not going to use it, right? And that's very, and that is why you need, I always tell people, you have to look at the Bible, because, you know, there are times when you will have that money and it can't do anything for you, or that particular asset. So the asset or the money is important for that particular situation. If you look at the story of Joseph, and when he was in Pharaoh's palace, and he was, his brothers came from Canaan, and they had silver, they had money. What they did not have is food, right? And I think for me, it's very clear whereby it shows sometimes money is not everything, because they had money, but they didn't have food. The person who had food was the person who had power at this time, which were the people who had actually stored the food in Egypt. So there's always has to be a balance. You actually have to have a balance. You want to have money, but you also want to have assets. But the worst thing you can do is to be asset rich and cash poor. So in regards to financial prosperity, you always want to have a balance here. The third thing, of the type of capital you need to be looking at, is knowledge, right? Which is wisdom and education, so that you can use to create value. If you look at the richest man in the Bible, who was Solomon, son of King David, when he was asked what he wants, he said he wanted wisdom, and God gave him wisdom. And from that wisdom, he was the wealthiest man in the world. And I don't think anyone has ever been more richer or wealthier than King Solomon. And that's because he had wisdom. But wisdom is not enough. You actually have to create value from the knowledge that you have, so that people can buy the goods or services that you are providing. But this is something that you need to be aware of and ask yourself, what do I have in my hand? Is it knowledge capital? Then use that to create value. And then the last one is basically investment capital. This is where you're supposed to work towards owning property, owning assets, right? Which, like you saw in the story of Abraham, whereby he moved from just business profit to silver, gold, and property. Something like property is true and tested. So that's where you want to be. But sometimes I tell people, especially young people, it doesn't make sense for you to have property and no cash, right? So you see all these people going in, taking loans to buy property, and then they lose them because they didn't understand the system of how you want to do things. So you want to start off with liquid assets, and then you go on to different asset classes. So there's a system about this, but ultimately what you want to do is own assets which are true and tested, so that you can be able to be prosperous. Let's say, for example, property is very, it's the smartest way for you to invest in, because you can live there, you can work there, you can rent and get money, you can farm and get money. The property appreciates in value depending on the location. You can use it as collateral, right? But even when you're looking at this, if you're living somewhere, you're not making money out of it. If you're working somewhere in that property, you're not making money out of it. You're renting somewhere, you cannot live there also. So again, when you're looking at property, you actually have to ask yourself, what is it that I want out of this property? And then use it to be able to get you to achieve it. If it is appreciation in value that you want, great. Then you can just buy land and you can do that. If it's cash which you need, which cash flow is king, then now you start need to do things about, can I rent this? Can I farm here? Because what I see is I see a lot of people who have land and they're doing nothing with it. So for me, I say, either sell it or do productivity in it. But that's something we can talk about.